Welcome back to Bottom Deck Achievements, a Hearthstone achievement hunting series. Onyxia's Lair, the mini set for Fractured and Alterac Valley, has been announced and is here. Or at least it will be here when this video comes out, because I'm recording this a couple days in advance to try to kind of gauge where we're at before the mini set comes out, and then kind of look at everything in the mini set and go over all the new achievements that are about to be added. So I can't quite do that beforehand when we don't know what the new achievements are. So I figured I'd do a little cleanup on the front end, kind of assess, and well, hop into something a little different right here. This Golden Fractured and Alterac Valley pack has been burning a hole in my pocket. They gave us one as part of the Winter Veil event. And God, I've been wanting to open it for so long, but I figured I would wait and do it on the video. So see what we get. I do not pre-order. So, ooh, that's cool. If only they would nerf this again. I don't pre-order, so I don't get to open any. Okay. I don't get to open any of these, so this is cool for me. Ooh, Pathmaker. I still need to finish this achievement, so cool. Nothing too great. Really glad to have this as a golden because I love this card, and I'm still playing a decent bit of Freeze Shaman, so always glad to have one in golden. So not the best pack, nothing too exciting, but still kind of cool. Let's hop into the achievements now. All right, let's rapid fire our way through these. I've cleaned up quite a bit since the last time. Mostly in duels, just trying to unlock everything for Vandar and Drekthar. I've been getting a lot of these done. Not a lot on the top end. Oh! They finally did it. They finally fixed this one. It's gonna go live with the Onyxia's Lair patch. So finally I can get this one done. Finally get rewarded for this card that I've been playing quite a bit of. But anyway, moving on. Totally done with Shaman. On the front end of the mini set. Cool, not too bad. And all the way done with Warlock, which is kind of cool. They did fix this one too, where you can honorably kill a legendary minion. That still is so jarring. They fixed this one where you can kill something that has been lowered in health, so it doesn't need to be like a Blood Mage Thalnos or some other 1 health legendary minion. Legendary tokens don't count though, because I forgot what it was, but it was something that didn't have the legend rarity gem on it, and that didn't trigger it, but then I killed something else that I'd weakened and got this. So cool that they fixed that one as well during the last patch. Done with To the Front. Still have quite a ways to go for the My Lair, My Terms. Not even halfway there, yikes. And then a couple neutrals all done. The hero card one was inevitable. I will say for one of these, like, just play the card type that was pushed in this set. This one kind of took longer. This one took longer than the quest lines one for whatever reason for me. Even though I think the numbers are the same. Let me check real quick. Oh no, it was 50 quest lines. Huh. Well, for whatever reason, this Play Heroes card one seemed to take quite a bit longer than the Questlines one. I feel like I was done with the Questlines one in like 2 weeks or something like that, and here I am halfway through, just barely finishing the Hero Cards one. Either way, finish up with a couple more of these neutral ones. Always love to see those. And yeah, these other neutral grinds are progressing nicely. Once again, mostly in duels. I did get one more chance with another Ivys the Forest Lord. Not from finding it in my duels buckets, but getting it off of, I think, Thoughtsteal in a duels run when I was playing Priest. So still couldn't get there. I had lethal and just had to play it on turn 9 and didn't get there. Or maybe it was turn 8. I don't remember. Whatever it was that made it a 10-10. I had to play it before I just killed my opponent before they conceded anyway, so there's that. What can you do? But yeah, scrolling up here, I did some quick math before I end. Ooh, right at 66%. But as far as experience that we've gained from the track so far, I'm showing that we're right around at 63% of all experience done. Namely because there are quite a few of the 500 point ones that still need to go. This one, the the warrior sight. Are they called sights? I don't remember what exactly they're calling that cycle. This one, a lot of the 500 point ones are still open, which is kind of drawing my experience total down. But overall, I think we're doing really, really well. We're on the best pace we've ever been, which is great. I'm showing that we're at 10,900 of the 17,200 experience that's available right now. And of course, that's only going to go up from this mini set. But cool. I don't have much else here, so I guess I'll see you in a couple days to talk about some new cards. They've announced some pretty cool stuff already. Can't wait to see what else is going to come. All right, folks, it is Tuesday, February 15th now. Onyxia's Lair is out. I've purchased it already, and I've gone through all the cards, and I've evaluated them a little bit. I'm going to share all my thoughts on the new cards and run through all of the new achievements. But between the time that I recorded the intro bit of this video and now, I came up with a cool idea. I wanted to go ahead and, since we had a day or two between the time where we knew all the cards and the patch actually coming out, I figured I would go and I would make predictions on what I thought all the achievements would be. So I have here, I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to pretend like I guessed all of them right or anything. I have written down what I think all the new achievements are. And we're going to see how close I got to them. So actually first, before this, I did actually manage to pop one more achievement. So let's just click on this real quick. I'm not even going to talk about it. Just 1, 2, 3. Frostwolf. Oh no, where'd my... Okay. What was that? Frostwolf Warlord. Whatever the 4-drop is that gets cheaper the more cards you play. Got that one done. So I am almost done with all of the neutral grinds that were there beforehand. And of course, we'll talk about the new stuff. So let's hop on over to Demon Hunter, talk about some new cards. I did go back and I looked at my Dreadmines video when I quickly went over all of those. And that video was 1 hour and 1 minute long. So 1 hour and 1 minute. I did go back and looked at my Deadmines overview with all the cards and achievements, and that video clocked in at 1 hour and 1 minute long. So I'm gonna do my best to keep this one much shorter. If we get out of here in under 30 minutes, I think it'll be a miracle. But I'm gonna do my best to be really quick and concise with most of these, because honestly, a lot of these cards aren't the most exciting thing. Demon Hunter, first off, we got Wings of Hate, summon 2 1/1 Fell Wings, and this is a ranked spell. I really like the third mini set of each year. I guess Dark Moon Fair was the first time we got a mini set. I guess also the Galakron's Awakening before that kind of revisited all the keywords and themes of the sets of that standard year. So I really like that they're keeping that alive. This is a ranked spell, which was one of the mechanics in the Barons. And so Demon Hunter gets a second one. Wings of Hate, summon 2 1/1 Fell Wings. I think it goes to 4 and then 6 at 5 and 10 mana respectively. I think there's a lot better cards that do this, that don't need to be on turn 5 or 10 necessarily to summon a bunch. So I think this is a bad card that will not see any play. Keen Reflex is interesting because it is a really good hero power for Drekthar in duels, but in Constructed needing to use some card slots in your deck for this card makes it significantly less appealing. I think it's a bad card and won't see any play. Razorglaive Sentinel, however, I think will see some play, because I think you can slot this in while cutting a couple cards that only exist to draw more cards. Because I think you can reliably get a couple triggers off of this. This is basically Stargazer Luna for, I think, 1 more mana, with more stats, of course, but also triggers on both the left and the right, as opposed to Stargazer Luna, which was just the right. So I think this card has the potential to see some play, and I think you cut other cards for it. So I think this is the best thing Demon Hunter got. I'm excited to see if it actually does see play, because I think it will, and I think it has the best chance to. And speaking of this card, my prediction for the Demon Hunter achievement is with this card, which I predicted it would be draw X cards in a single turn with this guy. I got close. Normally I would skip over to the achievements page for this, but for Demon Hunter and Rogue, they actually couldn't get those achievements in. The developers, I think it was Leo Robles. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly with one of those two. Minty Fresh on Twitter posted that it was something of a translation issue with a couple languages. They couldn't quite get the wording right for those, so they withheld this achievement and the Rogue one, which we'll talk about when we get to Rogue, and they'll be adding those in during the next patch. So my guess was that it would be this card right here, Razorglaive Sentinel, drawing X cards in a single turn, which probably 2 ranks, so an amount and then a higher amount. I was real close. I'll put this in a middle category of on the right track. I'll put this tweet up here. He tweeted that it's with this card, but it's just drawing cards in general, I think. Let me just double check to make sure. Yes. Draw 50 cards, and then the second step is draw 100 cards with this guy. So it doesn't have to be in all one turn. So I was on the right track. I just thought it was going to be a big turn value, get this done in one game kind of thing. But no, a bit of a grind, but hopefully if this card's good, not too bad of one. Moving on to Druid. I think Druid got some interesting stuff at least. I think the best card that Druid got is Scale of Onyxia, because it is a token, like a fill your board with tokens kind of card, but these tokens all have Rush and a bunch of 2/1s swinging in. You're not going to care that they only have 1 health because they're probably going to be trading well above their league anyway. It's 7 mana, deal 14. A little more expensive when you compare it to things like think of Volcano, which we'll talk about later, which was an old card which dealt 15 damage to the whole board for 5 mana, but also had Overload on it. So I know different classes, you can't quite compare them, but these whelps are frail. But on the other hand, I don't know if you're ever gonna play past this card. So I think it's still a good card. While we still have Arbor up, you can't obviously do that in one turn unless you have Guff out and are above 10 mana or have some other kind of spell reduction stuff going on. But overall, any card in Druid that just fills your board with stuff, and especially stuff that can attack right away, this is essentially a better version of Totemic. Oh, what was it? The one that summons the totems and then you can overload whether or not you want Rush on them. It costs 1 more mana than that, but it fills your board and no overload. So I don't know. I think it's a good card. Also an interesting card, just because it has burn damage attached to it, is Boomkin. Choose 1, restore 8 health to your hero, or deal 4 damage. Interesting note that damage can go face, but it's also interesting because it doesn't stack with any kind of spell damage stuff. I think it's an okay choose 1 card. It may see some play here and there, especially for kind of, I guess bigger Druid decks don't super need the reach if they're playing Survival of the Fittest. I think this card has a lot more potential to see play after this coming rotation. Meanwhile, there's Raid Negotiator, which I think is the worst card that Druid got. You discover choose 1 card, and whatever you discover has both effects combined. So if you find a Wrath, for example, it'll deal 4 damage to a minion and draw you a card for 2 mana. And speaking of this guy, my prediction for the Druid achievement was play X amount of choose 1 cards with both combined effects, because sometimes they like to throw in achievements that have other ways to get them done. It doesn't necessarily need to be with Raid Negotiator. Could be with the Druid Quest from Saviors of Uldum. It could be with... what's that name? Oh god, I can't think of the legendary name. It was the first guy that combined the effects. Fandral Staghelm from Whispers of the Old Gods. Playable in duels, even. And I've seen people clamoring that they would like to see that card return in the next core set. So I figured it would be something that even if you don't get this achievement done this go round, you can at least get it done after rotation if you still want to complete it. Was I right? Was I wrong? Was I at least on the right track? Let's look at the Druid achievement, because it actually is in the game. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I had the wrong card completely. It is deal damage or restore health with Boomkin. I'm assuming both of these things will contribute to the total, so if you just want to get this achievement done, pick the healing every time, because it's 8 as opposed to the 4 damage. And the amounts are 200 and 400. So Gonna have to play this guy a bunch of times. That's 100 total if you just do damage every time. 50 total, I guess, if you just do healing. But odds are you're probably going to be doing a combination of both. So it'll be somewhere between 50 and 100. That's a bit of a grind, not gonna lie. Moving on to Hunter, I'm going to start with what I think is their most boring card in Pet Collector. Battlecry, summon a beast from your deck that costs 5 or less. It's basically one half of Guardian Animals that doesn't give the beast rush, but has a body attached to it for 5 mana. 5 mana 3/3 is a bad body, and Hunter doesn't really seem to be having these kind of Guardian Animal style strategies going on that I've ever seen. Any kind of bigger beast stuff would be doing the with their Wing Commander Ikman card. So I think Pet Collector is a bad card that will not see any play. Because why do this when you can just run one card that does it twice as good and slightly better because of Rush, even if there's no body attached, because this body is kind of negligible at 5 mana. I'm going to move on next to Dragonbane Shot. Good fuel for the Quest Hunter deck. I actually saw the Quest Hunter deck in Wild the other day after the nerf that wasn't running the all odd list, and it ran the 2 mana twin spell one, and wow, that deck is a lot worse without both the 1 mana twin spell and the having the Baku in the deck. But I think this is an interesting card. I think it has the potential to see some play. It can go face, but also encourages you to go to kill minions with it, because it replaces itself if you honorable kill with it. So I think it's a really neat design. I think it may or may not have a chance to actually see some play. In Standard mostly, probably not Wild, but if you're trying to make that deck work, hey, Even Hunter's a thing, I guess. So there's this. And speaking of Even Hunter, the card I'm most excited about that I think is a wickedly good card is Furious Howl. 2 mana, draw a card, and repeat until you have at least 3 cards. This goes in, I think, any Hunter deck that can play it. Back in the day, Hunters would play, oh, what was that card? Not Giggling Inventor, but that was the one that spawned the Noeotrons. There was one card that would like draw you cards at the end of the turn until you got to 3 in hand, and that card got nerfed because aggro strategies like Hunter loved this guy. And I think Furious Howl is a fantastic reload card, way better than something like Quick Shot, even though Quick Shot deals damage. But just like a potential 2 mana draw 3 in a deck that's trying to like offload their hand and refuel as much as they can. I think Furious Howl is a tremendous card, and we'll see play even in Wild. In Even Hunter, that deck loves to spew its hand. I think it's a fantastic card, and yeah, so that's it for Hunter. And my prediction for the achievement was for Dragonbane Shot, which I had just guessed it was just kill X amount of enemies with this card, because, you know, it encourages you to do that. It replaces itself. It seemed feasible. But when we look at the achievement, we'll see that that wasn't quite what the developers had in mind. No, they're making us play with the Pet Collector. It's kind of unfortunate. This was the card I was least interested in, and we're going to have to play it a total of 151 times, an homage to Gen 1 of Pokemon, in which there were 151 monsters to collect. Thankfully, it's not individual different beasts that you have to do this with, but whoo, buddy, you have to play this card 151 times to get this achievement. This seems like a ridiculous grind. Yeah, I had to go back to it for a second just to make sure I wasn't like misreading it or something. But yeah, it just summons a single beast from your deck. You gotta summon 151 of these. Not looking forward to this one, but I guess I better get started. This and all the secrets I still have to pop. So a little unfortunate, this one, but what can you do? Let's move on now to Mage, who got our first legendary we're going to talk about. I guess I will start with Deep Breath, which I just think is a bad card. It has the potential to be like a really, really big, what was it, Shooting Star that targeted a minion and the ones next to it. But it costs 5. It does upgrade, but you got to be holding a lot of spells in your hand. I just think this is a bad card. I think there's, you know, much better options to like kill a bunch of stuff. So I think Deep Breath sees like no play in any format. Hala, Matron Protectorate is our first legendary card. It's a dragon, 8 mana, 4/12. So it's got the Malygos stats. I guess also Ysera stats as well. But what does it do? It essentially has a Flamewaker's effect, except it does 4 damage instead of 2 for each spell you cast. So while we've seen Mage get a lot of kind of big spell support, this is like small spell support on a very large, expensive body. But Flamewaker is one of Mage's all-star cards, so maybe this has the potential to have some use. Unfortunately, I think it's a bit too clunky as far as the cost goes, and most of the discount stuff in Mage is for spells and not minions, so I think this one might be a little difficult to get going. But if there is a good consistent setup for it, I can see this card being an all-star, just nowhere near as good as a Flamewaker before it. And then finally we get what I think is the most interesting card for Mage, Drakefire Amulet, a 10 mana spell which does have tradable on it, and you discover and summon 2 dragons. So it's kind of like Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, except there's no body attached to it, and you get to pick from, you know, a discover pool, 2 discover pools, what dragon you summon. Because honestly, most of the time when you played Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, you were just you know, playing those dragons that turn anyway because they cost 0. So you get any battle cry effects or anything. You won't get anything like that here. But I think Sleepy Dragon is in the core set, so that's a 5/12 with taunt, which is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff you can find. I mean, even just like discovering a Deathwing without the downside of discarding your hand or whatever, could be really, really good. You know, a Deathwing and something else. So I think it's a really, really interesting card. It certainly has the potential to have a ton of value. And speaking of having a ton of value, my prediction for this achievement was for this card. And my prediction that it was going to be summon a certain mana cost worth of dragons in a single cast of this. And just as an example, I had written down 18. So if you summon like 2 9-drops or like a 10 and an 8-drop or 2 10-drops, that you'd get there. Was I right? Was I on the right track? No, once again, no, I'm doing bad. If we're going off of football scoring rules, considering that the Demon Hunter one was probably considered a tie, well, I'm 0-3-1 right now. Let's look at the real achievement. You know, you'd think after all this time covering just achievements, I mean, I'm the achievement guy, that I'd have a better grasp on what the team would have in mind when making achievement sets, but unfortunately not, because the Mage achievement is dealing damage with Hela, Matron Protectorate. The levels are 100 and 200, so that's 25 and then 50 procs of it, so it shouldn't be too difficult of a grind, considering you can get multiple activations on the turn you play it, or hoping that the dragon itself lives. So, wait, what? Whoa, hold up. Look here. Thank you for your matronage. Level 2 says, thank you for your matronage. That's weird. Huh. Moving on to Paladin now. Paladin got some kind of basic stuff, like kind of solid but generalized kind of stuff. First up, Battle Vicar. Just discover a holy spell on summon. It's fine. It's kind of like there's a 1 mana 1/1 that draws you a holy spell from your deck. It's similar to that, except I think drawing a card is better than just discovering one, so I don't know how much play this will actually see. I don't think it'll see any play, actually, unfortunately, but it's a decently solid effect. And hey, maybe you can use your holy spell on this guy, Stormwind Avenger. After you cast a spell on this minion, it gains +2 attack. So if you play a single Libram of whatever the cheapest Libram is, this becomes a 4/6. Not bad. You could theoretically get that done on turn 3, a 3 mana 4/6, and then it just, you know, snowballs from there. A Hand of a Doll makes this a 5/6. I can't do math in my head quickly. That might be right. So kind of an interesting card. It's just kind of a really awkward body. From what I remember, 3 mana 1/5s tend to not see too much play. 3 mana 1/5s that grow. The closest comparison I have to that is Darkshire Councilman from Whispers of the Old Gods, who was a 1/5 that gained attack whenever you summoned extra minions. And that's when Zoo was like a thing. Granted, Librams are very much a thing for Paladin, so maybe this sees some play, but I think that deck is also so optimized that this might not see play until after rotation, when Librams are gone. You'll still have some buff spells, but not the best ones. So I'm unsure about this one. Maybe not now, but maybe after rotation. Meanwhile, I think Ring of Courage has the biggest chance of seeing play. It's just 2 mana 1/1, 2 mana give a minion 1/1, but then an extra 1/1 for each enemy minion there is. So if your opponent has a full board of minions, this is a 2 mana give a minion +8/+8. So that could be really, really good, especially if the meta shifts to more minion board focused stuff. This card could single-handedly just like swing a game out of nowhere. Especially if you have 2 of them and you play it on both on a single guy. That's like 4 mana +18 +16 Math is hard. I think this card has some good chance to see him play, and it has tradable on it. So even if it's not great for you right now, you just trade it away for when you need it later. I think the card's super solid, and it was my pick for what my achievement prediction was. If I can find my little sticky note. And my prediction was probably 2 phases of this, but with the final phase being give a minion +8/+8 with this. So I've been wrong like the last 3 classes in a row. So what are the odds I'm actually like on the right track for this one? Well, turns out it's the closest I've been since Demon Hunter. While it's not just giving one thing a ton of stats with a single use of it, it's just giving +1/+1 25 and then 75 times. So like I said, the bigger your opponent's boards are, the more procs of this you're going to get. So I think it just counts as one spell played on a thing and not like a bunch of the same spell played on a thing. Yeah, because it's just one spell. It just repeats the effect. Okay. Still though, I think this effect will trigger the more triggers you get of the +1/+1s, the more this will go up. So I don't think this will be a really, really bad grind. I think it could get done pretty quickly, actually, especially if you play this in duels where there's a lot more like minion stuff going on. Yeah, I think you can get there easy. Next up, we got Priest, who got another legendary card, and well, a couple others. First up, Horn of Wrathion. Draw a minion. If it's a dragon, summon 2/1 whelps. I think Priest has better ways to draw minions. I think there's that one corrupt card that draws a minion, and if it's corrupted, it costs 2 less. I think that's generally better all the time, even if you don't get the whelps. Because, I mean, there is a reason to build your deck heavy with dragons in the set that we'll get to when we get to the neutrals, but I don't think that is potentially... Granted, I don't know what all has been played today or what will be played here in the future. I just think I'd rather draw a minion and reduce its cost than draw a minion and only get an effect if it's a dragon, and maybe have to build my deck with only dragon stuff, because Priest has a lot of non-dragon stuff that I want to be playing, especially if I'm playing a longer game. I want the Light Shower Elemental that heals all friendly characters. I want this card that we're about to talk about here in a minute that's not a dragon. I want a bunch of other stuff that aren't necessarily dragons in my longer Priest games, so I don't think Horn of Wrathion ever really sees any realistic play. Additionally, Lightmaw Netherdrake has a really good effect. We know this is a super good effect because Dawnbreaker was a super good card that was played all the time, and it had this exact same effect. It was just a 4 mana 3/3, I think, as opposed to a 4 mana 4/4. But this is a little more awkward, whereas that other card just required you to hold onto a dragon. This card requires you to hold on to a holy and shadow spell, so it's a little bit clunky to get to work because you need 2 pieces specifically in your hand. So I don't know. This one could potentially see some play. I'm really mixed on it. I'm just really not sure. Because in the grand scheme of things, there are a lot of good holy and good shadow spells for Priest. So it's just, this is, just a 4 mana 4/4 dragon if you don't have that met. So I don't know. If it's not played, it's just because it's too awkward. Meanwhile, Mida Pure Light, if the Dead Mines gave me the biggest reason to craft the Warrior Pirate quest. This is giving me the biggest reason to craft the Xyrella hero card. Because this thing, it's basically, it's kind of like, let's see, there was a rogue dragon that shuffled, I think, a candle into the deck, Waxadread, and when you drew it, it would resummon that. It's kind of like that, but it's got Divine Shield and Lifesteal. It's got, I think, the same stats as Greybow, just with Lifesteal. So it's something that recurs and could be a good healing tool and will just be a consistent threat throughout the game. I think when I first saw it and made the comparison to Greybow in my head, I called it Delay Bow, which TM. I think this is a super good card. It is a death rattle that is needed and wanted by Xyrella. If you have this go off, die a couple times, and then play your Xyrella hero card, it just shuffles a couple more into your deck. So you can get potentially a full board of Midas. Then you're just healing for everything the whole time, shuffling more into your deck, and just never running out of juice. I think this card is super sweet. I'm really excited to play with that Xyrella hero card. I'm really glad I didn't start that grind yet, because I want to do it all with this card. That's how much I like this thing. So it could be complete trash, but it's one of my favorite cards of this mini set. And I hope that it's good. I hope that it actually is good, because I think it is. And it's also my pick for the achievement for Priest. My guess was that it was just a grind of summoning this from your deck from the fragment X number of times. And, well, I might need your opinion on how to rank this one. I'm torn on whether to consider this spot on or on the right track, because while I intended this on my prediction to be a grind that you do over multiple games, what they intended was to summon it multiple times in a single game. So it comes out, dies once, goes into your deck, comes back, 3, 4, and that's the first part. 5, 6, 7, that's the second part. So you're going to want to summon the exact same one, the exact same fragment, 7 times in one game to get this done. I'm afraid that this one will be one that just you'll have opponents conceding before it gets done, unless you get this online really quickly and get really lucky with some of your pulls. This one might be difficult just because of how grindy it might be. I don't think shuffling multiple fragments into your deck with the Xyrella hero card is going to count as extra generations. I think it'll just be copies of that same generation one. It's kind of weird. But I think I need to go with on the right track for this one, because there's that technicality of how different it is. So that's what I'm going with. Next up is Rogue, which is the second class that doesn't have their achievement in the game yet, so hey, I get to stick on the collection screen for a bit. Let's start with Tooth of Nefarian. I don't really have much to say about it. It's kind of comparable to the Hunter one, except while I thought the Hunter one was great because it can replace itself, this one is just a Burgle effect. It's a Discover Burgle effect, but it's just kind of a boring burn spell. So I'm way less high on this one than I was the Hunter one, so I don't think this is really going to see much play. Smokescreen is this the first time we've seen actually just draw 5 cards on a single card? You trigger any death rattles that you draw, but unfortunately that's not really the way Rogue is going right now. I think this card is a little too expensive and too clunky for what it does to ever really see any play, which is unfortunate because it's a really neat effect. It's kind of like Roll the Bones, and Roll the Bones like never saw a realistic play. That was you just keep drawing cards if you draw a death rattle. What I think the most interesting card is, and it makes me want to bring back out the Rogue quest line, is SI7 Smuggler, which you summon a random minion with cost equal to the amount of SI7 cards you've played this game. So it slots right in there. It's kind of got that Nethrandamus effect, but with SI7 cards that you've played in this game. So I think it's a solid card. It's a welcome addition to that deck. That was a really fun quest deck. It was one of the funnest, even though it was kind of like in the middle power-wise. You can probably pull some disgusting stuff, which was my prediction for the achievement. It was using this guy to pull a minion with mana cost X from it. I think like I went with like 8 and then 10, or like 6 and then 10 or something. It didn't matter. It's that it was just summoning minions of a certain mana cost. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what the achievement is. The first one I nailed. Actually, it took us, what, like 6 classes to get there? But that's pretty much exactly what the thing is, except it's 2 steps. Number 1, it's summon a 10 cost minion. Step 2, it's summon a 10 cost legendary minion. So it's kind of like the sucker hook thing, where it's evolving your weapon into an epic or evolving it into a legendary. So I think if you're just pulling 10 cost minions, I don't think there's too many in the pool. And I think most of what is in the pool is probably legendary. You know what? Hold up. We're going to do a little science right now. I just quickly went through, and it looks like, unless my count is wrong, if you're playing this in standard, it's a 50-50 shot. There's 8 minions total, 4 of which are legendary. So this one I don't think should be too hard, provided you can just get it up to 10. Hopefully there's a little counter that tells you, but yeah, shouldn't be too difficult in an achievement. Moving on to Shaman, they got, I think, kind of a weird assortment of cards. Bracing Cold is just a restore health to your hero, reduce the cost of a spell. Okay. Spirit Mount, it's another mount card, that cycle from Stormwind, I think. Give a minion +1/+2 and spell damage +1. When it dies, summon a raptor that I'm assuming also has spell damage +1. Kind of boring. I think if Shaman's doing spell damage stuff, they have better ways to do it than this, even if it is a little sticky. And then finally, I mentioned we were going to mention Volcano again, and here it is. It's like Volcano, but it does 10 damage instead of 15, but overloads you for 1 as opposed to, I think Volcano overloaded for 2. So you sacrifice a little bit of power, but with a little less downside on the next turn. Volcano was fine. I don't really think Shaman has trouble clearing boards, unfortunately, so I don't really think this is going to see too much play, especially because you don't want to kill your opponent's board. You want to freeze it all with a Snowfall Guardian. So unfortunately, I don't really think, I think Shaman is one of the biggest losers, if not the biggest loser for this mini set. I don't really think any of these cards are really worth anything. My prediction for the achievement for Shaman was for Bracing Cold. It was just restoring X amount of health to your hero. Kind of boring, but I didn't really know what to do with it. Well, let's just hop over to the achievement to see how wrong I actually was. Yes, I was completely off with this one. It is for Don't Stand in the Fire. I don't understand the reference. I'm assuming this is a reference to something, Runaway Little Girl. But it is dealing 8 damage and then 10 damage to a single minion with Don't Stand in the Fire. So ideally your opponent has a single big thing that has at least 10 health, and you can get there. Seems like kind of an annoying one because it's one of those ones that relies on your opponent playing a certain way or a certain thing. Yeah. Actually, it doesn't even have to be an opponent. It can be any minion. Okay, this could be a little easier. You just have to hope that your opponent doesn't have any minions. Still, it seems like a really awkward one, and I'm not super excited to grind this one out, but hey, it's what I'm here for. Next up, we got Warlock, who I think got some interesting stuff. I think Infestation is the least interesting thing here. It's kind of like Soul Mirror, except it just summons 3/3s to attack all the enemy minions, not a copy of each enemy minion. So if you want more Dread Imps, if you haven't got that achievement done, there's that. But other than that, it's just kind of a meh card. I think Warlock has better ways to deal with stuff. Card I love, but I think might be bad, is Spawn of Deathwing. It's a 5-mana 6/6 that destroys a random enemy minion. Read if your opponent has only one minion, that minion. But you also discard a card, so there's a bit of a downside there as well. But it's an overly statted minion with a good effect. I think that usually has a chance of seeing some kind of a play. Don't know how detrimental the discard thing is going to be, especially in standard. You don't really see too many payoffs for discard. I guess Bone Web Egg is in standard right now, I think, but other than that, there's not like really anything. I think it's in standard. Oh well. Still, it's a card I love that might just end up seeing 0 play. But a card I think is going to see a ton of play is Curse of Agony. You shuffle agonies into your opponent's deck, and it's basically a fatigue tick. So the first one that they draw, they'll take 1 damage, and then 2, and then 3. And if you play a second copy of this, 4, 5, and 6. For a total of, oh, I did the math earlier, 26 damage total, I think, if they draw all of them. It's nice counterplay to combo-oriented strategies that just want to dig through their whole deck to find a specific thing to kill you. Because you do a ton of damage to them as they do that. I think it's really rad. It's powerful. Terrified it's going to get nerfed because 1 mana for this effect seems like it's pretty good. Typically when we see things like this, they're on things that cost at least 2 or 3, like your ambush cards for Rogue. So this might be a little too efficient for how cheap it is. But either way, it was my pick for the Warlock achievement. I just thought it was going to be deal X amount of fatigue damage with this card. And I was completely right. Because this achievement, More Dots, is dealing 84 and then 180 damage. Okay, 84 I thought was a weird number, so then I did the math, and I think I said 26 just a second ago. It's 21, so this is basically just 4 full effects of the Curse of Agony. If you get every tick from playing this card twice of damage on your opponent, it'll equal 21. So if you do that 4 times, that's 84. Thankfully, they didn't put another weird number there. It's just 180, which I guess if you play this card once and get all 3 ticks in a bunch of games, I think that adds up to 6 damage. Oh boy, my brain is melting doing this math. Just deal 180 damage with this card, won't ya? All right, 1 class to go and then the neutrals. Shoulder Check is one of the most, probably the most boring card in the set. Just give a minion +2/+1 and rush. I think at the beginning of this, I mentioned that a lot of the cards in this set are kind of basic, useful, not very exciting, but decent. And this is the exact example of that, because it's not a sexy effect. It's not anything to write home about, but it's, an effect you might want sometimes. I don't think you ever run this in a deck. It's a super, super basic card. A card that I thought was hilarious is Hit It Very Hard. Gain +10 attack and can't attack heroes this turn. So, a ton of attack for just a single mana, but, can't really do anything with it. At least to your opponent's face. You can certainly kill whatever your opponent has on the board. Is that worth it to run in your deck? Who knows? Maybe there's an achievement for it. Additionally, finally, we have Onyxia Drake, which is basically Shield Slam on a body, which is really interesting. A 4 mana 4/5 is already like okay stats, and it also has Taunt. This card is sweet. This is some armor loving stuff for Warrior. And I had so much fun with that deck, so I'm loving the fact that there's some kind of dragon control warrior stuff going on. And all that being said, gushing about that one card, my guess for the achievement here was for Hit It Very Hard, which was dealing some amount of damage in a single turn, like 20 on the first step, and then like 25 or 30 or something for the next. So you'd have to combine this with like a strong weapon or something like that. And I was on the right track for this one. Because while the achievement wasn't just dealing a bunch of damage in a single turn, it was, dealing a bunch of damage over several turns. Hit 20 and then 40 minions very hard. So basically just playing this card 40 times and swinging into a minion. Don't play them both on the same turn though, because that's just 1 tick for your achievement. All right, and finally, we're at the neutral cards. My voice is starting to go. I'm going to start with a common and work my way up rarity-wise. Onyxia Warder. Shoutouts to the opponent who played this card against me in Wild, and I just like curb stomped them afterwards. It's just a basic Whelp Summoner if you're holding a dragon. Not much else to say. Gear Grubber, I think, is a very bad card. If you end your turn with any unspent mana, reduce this card's cost by 1. It doesn't get going. Cards that just reduce their cost by 1 every turn if you meet some kind of a condition never see much play. Like there was like a 6 mana 4/4 or something, or a 6 mana 5/5 that just got 1 cheaper every turn. So I was like, oh, sweet. If you can hold on to this for like 6 turns, it's a 4/4 for free. But then you have to hold on to this card for 6 turns. Cards like this never see much play. It's only the cards that can discount multiple times in one turn, like Corridor Creeper, that have ever been good. So I think Gear Grubber is absolute trash. Whelp Bonker I think is kind of funny, but I think without any kind of rush or any kind of, you know, taunt or any other kind of keyword aside from both Frenzy and Honorable Kill, interesting mix of the two, by the way, though, draw a card. So it's interesting that it can, you know, it bonks whelps, it can swing into them and kill, I guess, 3 of them before going down, but I don't think that's very realistic. Once again, if it had rush, I would think this would be a lot better, but as I see it now, I think if you're lucky, you'll get one tick of this, and it's probably going to end up being the Frenzy. It's probably going to be difficult to Honorable Kill stuff here because of just the 1 attack. You can probably get it done, though. I don't know. I don't like this card very much. Kind of running with the theme of these mini set epics kind of being kind of bad. Oh well. And then finally, let's see. I guess I'll leave Onyxia for last. Kazakus, or Kazakasan, is an absurdly interesting effect. And it's if all minions in your deck are dragons, it kind of has the Archivist Elysiana effect of discovering something and creating a new deck from it. And in this case, it's Duels Treasures. I talk about Duels a ton. I love Duels. This is super, super exciting. Unfortunately, a lot of the Duels Treasures are not the best or only situationally good. Like, give all minions in your deck +1/+1 is probably not one you want to grab from this. Or Beastly Beauty, when this swings into something and survives, it becomes an 8/8, but it's a 5 mana 2/8 or something like that. There's a couple great ones, like Book of the Dead, which is just a 10 damage AoE to your opponent's entire board and face. There's Embers of Ragnaros, which deals 3 8-damage fireballs to random enemies. There's the Hilt and Blade of Quel'Dalar, which if you pick both, gives you the Blade of Quel'Dalar, which does a 4 damage AoE to anything as soon as you swing in. And I think it just automatically goes to your hand, maybe. So there's a lot of sweet stuff, but there's a lot of bad stuff as well. Hopefully by discovering a bunch of these, and you kind of getting to guide it, hopefully you just don't get completely screwed by RNG, and you can do some pretty sweet stuff with it. So I'm excited for this just because I love duels, and you can do some pretty wild stuff. Locust is crazy. It's 7 mana, deal 14 damage to your opponent's face. This card is absolutely bonkers. I'm so glad that it's here. I'm super, super excited. Even if it's not great, I just want to play with it. And those are some of the best cards. Even if they're not good, they're very, very fun. And I'm excited. And then finally, we've come to the raid boss herself, Onyxia. So all the other Onyxias have been pretty bad. OG Onyxia, you filled your board with 1/1 whelps. Core set Onyxia here, in this year of Hearthstone, fills your board with whelps at the end of every turn, so both yours and your opponent's. Slightly better, but still not great. This time, the whelps have rush. They're 2/1s instead of 1/1s, and Onyxia herself has rush, and she is immune as long as you control at least one whelp. That being, you need to deal with all the trash mobs in order to get to the raid boss herself, which is really interesting design. I think this is a good card. Only held down by the fact it costs 10 mana. At least it's one of those 10 mana cards that can go with your rogue achievement. I think this card's sweet. It's just a super, super good value. This is what a 10 mana card should be. It feels very powerful, immediately impactful, not necessarily game winning though, but still will make its presence felt. I love this card. I think it's really, really sick. And then, so all the other mini sets have had 2 neutral achievements. So I guessed for 2 here. I guessed a really basic one of just summoning a bunch of whelps. That seems to be an effect that's given to a lot of classes here. And my second one was just playing a bunch of Duels Treasures, whether it be from Kazakasan or just in Duels, but probably just from Kazakasan. And well, how'd I do? So on this one, I was completely off because I wasn't expecting it to show up. The past 2 sets of this standard year, They had one of these mystery secret hunting achievements added in. And but they've always come like during the first patch after the main set came out, so sometime before the mini set. So the fact that we hadn't had one yet led me to believe that we wouldn't be getting one, but here we go. I haven't even done the Barons one. These are interesting, but kind of, I don't like them very much, just because like it's really, really cool that it brings the problem solving, the secret finding community together, like to solve these together. But at the same time, it's like basically for you to do it, you just look up a guide to do it, and it's not super, super involved. But the card backs have all been like super cool with these, and I'm assuming the Shimmering Snowflake card back is going to be no different. But as far as the other two, I think I was spot on both. Even though I just said Summoning Whelps, the fact that they all have Rush in this mini set means that you'll be attacking with them immediately, so I'm going to call it spot on even though it's attacking. It's like spot on with an asterisk, but I think it's close enough that I can consider this one right on. It's 100 and 200 times to attack with whelps, so if any live past their first turn, I guess if you're not swinging in with them, it's not counting for that first turn, but I guess subsequent turns after that, if you're swinging them into face, it counts. And then finally, of course, the Kazaka-san one was spot on. It's just playing unique treasures from him. So not much to say there. It's 8 and then 16, so you're probably going to have to pick some bad ones here and there to get this done, but shouldn't be too difficult to get done. Overall, if I look at my final tally, I was spot on 3 of them, completely off on 4, and on the right track for another 4. So I think I have a pretty firm grasp on what the team is going for most of these achievements. I can't super complain with a lot of these, except for the Hunter one. The, let's see, where is it again? The Summon 70 and then 151 Beasts with Pet Collector. This seems like the most atrocious grind of them all. Followed probably just by the awkwardness of the Shaman one, the dealing damage to a single minion with Don't Stand in the Fire. Yikes. I'm sure I'll figure out a way to get this done. But in final thoughts, I always say for these mini sets, is it worth buying? The criteria I go with is if there are at least 2 legendary cards that I think are good and worth running, that it's worth a buy. And here there's definitely 2. Onyxia I think is really sweet, and I think Mida Pure Light is really good as well as I think even the other 2 that I didn't mention. The Dragon from Mage could be actually good. It's an effect that has been proven to be really good in the past. And Kazaka-san just seems like a whole heck of a lot of fun. So I think last mini set I actually said, like, look, you're probably going to buy it because it's a good value anyway, but if you're really looking at whether or not to spend money on this or not, maybe skip it, because I thought really only Mr. Smite was like the one that would see a lot of play, and to a certain extent that was kind of true. But here I think it's the complete opposite. I think this is easily worth a buy. It's one of the best things you can spend your gold on. I think there's a ton of sweet cards in here, even just for the value of the 4 legendaries. Even if everything else is complete trash, I think all the legendaries have some kind of a chance to see a realistic play. So for that, I'm like super happy and I'm super stoked, and go buy this mini set if you haven't already, but you probably have. And that is going to bring us to this end of this very, very long mini set review. Looking at my clock, I'm at about 1 hour here, so hopefully by the time it gets edited down, it'll be a little less than that Dead Mines one. But I'm going to keep this outro short, so thank you very much for watching this video. If you made it this far, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done either of those things yet. Both of those things would help me out a ton, and with a whole new slew of achievements, please feel free to leave ones that you'd like to see covered in a future video in a comment below. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at HeyTallman at both places, and I don't have anything else, and my voice is about to go out. So as always, thank you for watching. Have a great day. May the card you need the most never be at the bottom of your deck.